In 2017, there were about 977,371 international student enrollments in Australia. This injects about $32 billion each year into the Australian economy. But is that all we are? International students bring in multiculturalism, diversity, and so much more. But it is not without struggles. International students face an array of problems, ranging from finances and institutional closures to social and emotional problems like racism and depression. And that's where CISA comes in. CISA stands for the Council of International Students Australia. At CISA, we work tirelessly to be the best advocate for all international students at the community, state, and federal levels. Through these efforts, we hope to improve the international student experience in Australia for international students by international students.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am Kasun. I'm the National Welfare Officer of the Council of International Students Australia. We are launching the online sexual health conference starting from tomorrow. So thanks for joining us with this pre-conference brief. And today we're going to have a questions and answers session live here for you just before the online sexual health conference. So we'll start with the acknowledgement of country. The Council of International Students Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognize their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. So a bit about CISA. CISA is the national peak body for all the international students in Australia. CISA represents all educational levels, including postgrad, undergrad, private college, wet TAFE, ELICOS, and foundation level. CISA was founded in 2010. In few weeks, we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary. CISA represents the international student cohort in Australia, and as of now, we represent more than 700,000 international students. What we do, basically, we are the main advocacy body for international students. We advocate, we represent, we empower, we engage, and we collaborate. We advocate for international students. We represent their voice in state level and also in federal level. We empower international students to build their careers, build their leadership skills, and also we create platforms for international students to engage actively in Australia during their studies. Also, we collaborate with heaps of other organizations, national peak bodies, federal government, state government, and all other organizations. So today, we are launching the online sexual health conference. And this is, as I mentioned, this is the pre-conference. And it's an opportunity for you to ask questions and send us questions. All the information, all the links are in the post. We are happy to answer your questions. So for us as CISA, the international students' welfare, especially their mental health and well-being, is really important during this pandemic because we know that a lot of international students are struggling during this pandemic. So as the Council of International Students Australia, we thought of addressing all the key issues of international students, and we understand that sexual health is also an important issue, important concern of international students. That's why I, myself, Bell, Tool, and Nang here today launching this conference. So now I would like to pass on to Bell, our National Women's Officer.
Thank you, Kasun. That was a very nice introduction. I'm very, very happy to be here and doing this live Q&A. And I guess I want to share a little bit about my role as the National Women's Officer. So this is a role that's installed in CISA about 2 years ago. And so since I have come to this role, I have gotten the opportunity to really dive deep into the experience of female international students here in Australia. As you all know that there's a big cohort of international students here, and all our female students come from different countries and different cultures and different backgrounds. So it is not an easy task to identify a lot of this experience, but it's interesting that we have a lot of things in common. So for example, for myself, when I came to Australia, there are a lot of things to adjust. And one of the main thing is the stereotypical roles that we take for granted back home about how a woman should behave and how a man should behave and how our individual roles are in family, in community, in society. And so when I came here, eventually I noticed that, there are a lot of things that put female international students in a disadvantaged position occasionally. And the responsibility or the roles that I have as the Women's Officer of CISA is to help female international students on this aspect. And I think that apart from being a part of the advisory groups to certain projects and advise institutions and government on the welfare of international students, one thing that I really value is the platform to communicate with female international students and to exchange our ideas to help students to develop their confidence, their skills, their knowledge, and really to connect with one another. And a few of the past projects that we've launched successfully include the CISA Tea Talk, supported by Study Melbourne, and the big Future Female Conference, also supported by Study Melbourne, and a couple of other events that connect and empower female international students. And I'm very, very proud of Nang and Tul that you'll hear shortly for really putting this conference together. And over the next few weeks, it's on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. So just tune into CISA Facebook. You will hear really a very comprehensive topic around sexual health, and Tul and Nang will dive deeper into what this means. And I'm very excited to connect with you all. Thank you, Catherine. Now I'll hand it over to our organizers.
Thanks, Belle. That was amazing. We got two amazing student leaders here today, Tul and Nang. It was their original idea to address these issues. As you know, CISA has been advocating for international students over the past few weeks, especially to support international students and bring the welfare support that they need, especially to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic issues and all sorts of other consequences of this pandemic. Now, today we have Nang, who is one of the hosts for this conference. Now I would like to pass it on to Nan. She will give you a brief introduction to the conference and also the history of this conference.
Thank you very much, Kasun. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me well. So yeah, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Supapon, and everyone know me as Nang. I come from Laos. And I feel so humble and grateful to be here today and to be one of the organizers to organize this conference. And yeah, I would like to express my gratitude to all supporters, partners from different organizations, and mainly, of course, CISA, who has been supporting us and make this conference in reality. So really the aims of this conference is to educate and sort of introduce sexual assault and sexual harassment, the idea and how to protect ourselves and help others in the community if we experience sexual assault. or to prevent ourselves from experience sexual violence, and to help others if we know anyone who are at risk or has been sexually abused. So really the inspiration of this conference has come from my own experience, and I believe that a lot of people, especially international students, has been experiencing sexual assault as well. So many times in Australia, especially when I first come to Australia 2 years ago, I has been sexually assaulted by my employer, by some of my some people around me. So I feel so ashamed and feel shameful, and I feel scared to speak up. And because of that, I really think that a lot of people might feel the same way, and they don't really have the courage to speak for themselves because of the shame that they have, and because of the lack and little knowledge that they may have. So that's why this conference is really dear to my heart, and I feel so grateful that a lot of organizations jump in. And initially, this conference actually supposed to run in March, but because of the COVID-19, that's why it has been postponed. And now we have amazing team here who has been putting a lot of effort and energy to really make this into the online version, which is better than it actually would be in the past, because now not only those who are there who can access to the information, but also everyone around the world can access to the information. And I really hope that this conference will at least, broaden the perspectives of people and really challenge the norm of sexual assault. And I think it's important to talk about sexuality in order to protect ourselves and for our own well-being. And thank you so much for CISA and for Study Melbourne, Victoria Women Trust, and Victoria University, Victoria University International Student Association, and many organizations who jump in and be willing to support this conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Nan. Appreciate it. As Nan mentioned, this is really an important topic. Even though we are facing other difficulties during this pandemic, we can't forget these important topics that need to be discussed, that need to be spoken out. Now, I would like to pass it on to Tul. Tul is the Women's Officer for the Victoria University Student Union. Tul, over to you.
Thank you so much, Kisun. So I'm very grateful again for being part of this conference, considering that we were unable to conduct this face-to-face. We have all decided that the best option would be to divide the conference into different online sessions covering the various contents of sexual health. So the first session will elaborate on what sexual health is and the key distinctions between sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sexual violence in the different aspects of life. We will also be talking about the myth of sexual assault that has been generalized and stereotyped in different cultures. Session 2 will be talking about consent. So there will be an elaboration on what respect and responsibility is, the misconceptions of assuming that an act is consensual, and sexual coercion. Session 3 will address the different laws in Australia, the steps that the victims can take, and we will also be talking you through about what happens after the victim reports the experience. And finally, session 4 will be about intersexuality, gender equality, and self-care. The steps will help in caring for oneself. There will also be information on resources in case you feel discriminated against. Our team is really looking forward to covering all these topics in all these different sessions, and we really hope that this will help a lot of you considering that most of you are international students. And yes, thank you. I'll just hand it over to Kasun now.
Thanks, Tool. As Tool mentioned, we'll be covering all the content, and this content is very important for international students. And also, as our women's officer mentioned, we need to continuously advocate for these rights, and also we need to make students aware about their rights. Belle, I think you have a question.
Yeah, absolutely. I really resonate with what Nan shared about her having her own personal experience, and I'm very, very proud of you, Nan, and I'm very proud of other female students or male students who have had this experience and come out of the other side of it and really build yourself up to become a strong person and even step up to hold this conference to help other students. Because being the women's officer, before I stepped into this role, obviously this topic is not something that we discuss very much, especially for international students, because we come from different, cultural background, and certain cultures this is quite taboo, and there's a lot of stigma around it. But since I stepped into this role, I have connected with many female students who have confided in me that they have similar experience to different degrees of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse. And it really dawned to me that, this is a shared experience between many people, but no one is talking about it. And that's why the stigma remains there. And with this conference, we want to break this stigma and start talking about it. And really, if we don't talk about it, our students are not aware of our rights. We're not aware of what is respectful relationship. We don't know how to fight for them, and we don't know where to seek help if something like that happen. So I have a question for Nang that, obviously it is a very tough and traumatic experience. How do you acknowledge what happened and acknowledge that you are able to step out of it and really gain control over it? Because there's this victim blaming culture that often kept victims, or we like to use the word survivors, in a box. Would you like to share some of your experience?
Thank you, Belle, for the brilliant questions. Yeah, when it happened to me, it's especially in 2018, it's horrible. I feel so painful, and it's not really good experience. And believe me, I have been crying. I've been thinking about it, and I was in pain, and it's not okay what happening to me. It's not okay at all. And when I talk to someone, my body starts shaking. I don't know why. Like, I feel so shameful what happening. It actually is not my fault at all. But I just feel like I blame myself, and like, oh, why I go there? If I don't go there, then it doesn't happen. So that all of those things. And then I experience again, but at the time, what I work on myself is I love journaling. So at first I acknowledge that's what happening to me. And I try to reflect and break it down and write down everything that's happening in that moment. And then I was like, in order for me to really heal from this, I have to forgive. and move on. And it doesn't mean that, as it doesn't mean that it's okay what that person did to me, but I have to forgive him in order to save me and heal me. When I forgive, then I can talk about it without tears and without shaking, without shameful, because I forgive him. And then when it happened again to me, I was like, this is very common experience for everyone. So that's why I was like, okay, now I can move on by reflecting and by talking to those who I trust the most. And then I was like, okay, this is very common experience to everyone. What can I do about it? That's why I start with talking to my friend that I would like to do something in order to really inspire others and let them know that what happened is, it's not okay what happening, but sort of that experience, everything that happening in life, it's the thing that make us who we are today. And in order to really take back our power, we should not blame ourselves and we should do something about it. I know it's hard. It's a lot of work, inner work, like journaling. I do a lot of meditating, self-care, exercise, and reflecting. And that's why I try to do a lot of research. And that then when I realized that, wow, 1 in 2 women didn't never seek for support or advice at all when they experience sexual assault. So that's why I sort of reach out to you guys and different organizations in order to really, really at least do something about it, if not really break all of the norm and all of the belief that we have toward sexual assault and sexual harassment. And really, everyone, don't be shameful. It's okay. Just talk about it. And bad experience can turn into power. We have control over our life. And one person can do so much. You just need to reach out to others. Yeah, that is my my answer. Hopefully that is
Amazing.
good.
That's so amazing. And I like what you said about forgiveness. And very often, survivors need to learn to forgive themselves because of the victim blaming culture, as you say, that, you know, we often blame ourselves for putting ourselves in that position when it's not the truth. Like, you need to acknowledge that what happened is not okay. So I love what you have just shared. And Tool, would you like to share with us why this topic is important to you?
Yes, definitely. So I agree with what Nang has said. And I would like to say that there are so many different ways that one can cope with such an experience. Many people take a long time to actually say something about it. And personally, it happened to me as well. And it took me so many years to really like come forward. And I reckon like really my peers, my family has really helped me with it. And I've had like a lot of support from my counselors as well. But in certain cultures, like even in my culture, in Mauritius, like we tend to have like a victim blaming culture. And it's really difficult for you to really go out there and say, I need help. I really need support. I don't need to be like victim blamed for something that happened to me. And yeah, I think like there's so many different ways to cope. Some people can actually forgive and just forget about it. And that's something really strong to do. And there's so many other ways. And every step that you take, it's a very strong step that you're taking. But personally, for me, would be just to move forward. So yes, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I think you touched on something very important. Everyone is on the different path and journey to get over this experience. And, you know, we should really be gentle with ourselves. So, well, thank you all. I'm very, very excited for the conference starting tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. join us on CISA Facebook page live. And before we end, I just want to say that this can be a very triggering topic to many people. And there are resources that are available. We will share it on our CISA Facebook page, and know that you are not alone. And as Nang and Tul have shared, reaching out and ask for help is often the first step to getting over this experience and coming out even stronger. So thank you, everyone. And I'll see you starting tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. and after that, every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Kasun, anything to add?
Yes, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Nan. Thanks, Tool. And thank you, everyone. From CISA, I would like to pass a message that CISA is with all of the international students. Don't worry, we are with you, and we will continue working for the betterment of international students Australia. All right, thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.